Hey guys, so I know I'm a little late to the party here. Age of Empires 4 was announced just a few days ago, but I wanted to kind of weigh in and give my thoughts on this because I have been a big fan of Age of Empires since the very first one released in 1997, and I've played the two sequels. I'm pretty sure all of the expansions at one point or another, and it's one of those very storied franchises that goes way back, over 20 years, and I would argue is one of Microsoft's best known software titles, certainly in the gaming arena. So worth mentioning that certainly there's a new entry into that franchise, the first one in well over 10 years, I think, since the very last expansion to the third installment was released. Hard to believe it's been that long, but time does fly. And this is pretty exciting if you think about the time dilation between, the big entries in a franchise like Age of Empires or Civilization or something like that. It's usually no more than a few years, and now we've got over a decade basically of new graphics and a lot of computing power that didn't exist in the mid 2000s. So it's really kind of exciting to see where they will take this latest installment with all of the newest technology we have available now. It isn't, of course, all about the graphics and the latest technologies. It's going to be really interesting what they do, in terms of the story, because any fan of Age of Empires knows that probably among, if not the best entry in the whole series, was the sequel Age of Empires 2. The Age of Kings, where the game takes place in a medieval time period. In fact, there's, if I remember right, 4 different sub-time periods within there, because, well, that's a really long period of time. I think it's basically from the fall of the Roman Empire all the way up to basically the Renaissance. So it's a long period of time. It's like a thousand years. And it does look like this latest installment is going to take place in the medieval period. In fact, one of the developers said that it's going to actually it's actually going to cover more time than Age of Empires 2 did, which is kind of surprising given how much time that is supposed to cover. But I mean, I can kind of understand why they're doing that time period. Say, instead of going all the way back to the ancient period, that there's just a lot of really interesting and well-recorded historical events that occurred during the Middle Ages. And if you think about all of the great tales of battles and romance and chivalry and everything that's wound up in the Middle Ages, I mean, it's a really kind of fertile ground for stories to play out in a game like this. So I can understand that. Might make it a little awkward going into the future. Are they going to go backwards into the ancient period with another game? Maybe go back into the future with Age of Empires 3 all the way up until well, that one didn't get into the 20th century, so I suppose that's an era that they could explore, is the early 20th century, World War I at least, and so forth. So, if you think about empires, the Age of Empires, has that mostly gone to the wayside? Well, basically, unless you count, modern day economic empires. England, of course, had one of the biggest empires of all time, but that largely fell apart by the mid 20th century. So maybe that's a cap on the time period that these games are relevant. But looking at the game, I mean, it almost goes without saying that it looks amazing. The perspective, it looks really good. Like, you can kind of swoop down, godlike onto the battlefield. That's really kind of exciting. Whereas the previous games all had very similar perspective, the same kind of angle, and so forth. So it's kind of neat that they're able to do that. I mean, that's one of the things I'm most excited about with modern technology is, getting all those new angles. And another big thing is the topography. I mean, it looks like the terrain, the topography, hills, mountains, and everything, all perfectly, three-dimensional. Looks amazing. Plus, I would imagine has a pretty big impact on how the game is going to play out. As far as your strategies go, in attacking cities, fighting other armies, terrain obviously is going to play a pretty big role as it does in real battles. So I'm excited to see that. And the details look really good. The definitive editions have just come out of the Age of Empires 1 and then now more recently Age of Empires 2. Those look good, but it's absolutely confined by the camera angles and how close you can get to the units and all that stuff, and how the terrain is actually modeled. It's not nearly as complex as it looks like it's going to be in Age of Empires 4. So all of those things are extremely exciting. I think the thing I'm excited most about is, what are they going to do in terms of the story? Again, what kinds of stories will they choose to emphasize? What exact time periods, conflicts, and things like that. Even beyond the graphics and everything, I'm really excited to see what they do there, because it sounds like they have invested quite a bit of time in this. And I don't know if there's anyone. It kind of looks like there might be some developers that carry over from Age of Empires 3, maybe even before, and certainly a lot of developers that have played those games, since they were, probably teenagers or a kid like me. And so they're bringing that knowledge and that passion for the games, hopefully, into this latest installment. So, one of my concerns, of course, just now in this day and age, games being released, sometimes well before they are finished, and it's just really kind of disappointing especially on big titles like this. It's not an indie developer or anything like that. So, hopefully, this thing is well polished, and I really don't mind waiting a little extra just to make sure that the game is it's got it's well put together right out of the box. So hope for that. And would be really nice if they released, guys, if you could release a special edition big box version, our collector's edition. I do like that. I do appreciate that when they, still have an option for big box, even if it's a little extra. All right, guys. So I'm really interested in what your thoughts are of this latest and really fairly overdue installment of Age of Empires. Really fun game, really kind of addictive game, much like Civilization, another favorite of mine. And I don't know, it's kind of neat seeing modern versions of these games coming out that I played as a kid, and I still go back to and still enjoy. I mean, they're really that good. So thanks for listening to me ramble basically on the subject, but I'm really excited to see what comes out. New screenshots, new video. So I will be looking for all that stuff along with you guys. Here is more details of this game is revealed. Alright, guys, thanks for watching, and catch you next time.
Now, a new age is upon us.